There are 6 other callers on the call. There are 6 other callers on the call.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Ramona?
Yeah.
Okay, Ozzy? Okay, good.
Good.
All right, very good. Then I'm going to go ahead and get started. If everyone could do me a favor and mute themselves until they get ready to ask a question, I would appreciate it. Just so we don't have any background noise, that would be great. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do today, I think this may be the last one that I do before I get into some of the more advanced notation. We'll see, but I think by the end of today you'll have a pretty good feel for most of the core functionality in the plugin. So, but we'll just see how that goes. So what I'm going to do today is I want to cover contacts company, and I will also potentially, depending on time, cover tags on the fly. We've kind of done tags on the fly before, but as part of some other things that we were doing, but just very specifically, I want to just go through it one time. So contacts company is this. So there are a couple of issues with contacts company. If you look at a contact record, so let's go to a contact record really fast, and let's go to Datadog. Now, there's two different ways that Infusionsoft represents a company. Okay, and so this is a little bit confusing, and it also can cause some challenges. All right, so there's sort of a formal way and a loose way. Let me make this bigger. This is the formal way. Okay, this is when the contact is linked to the company. In this case, there is a separate company record that you can click through. The company has its own ID. You can see all of the contacts that are linked to the company. It can have its own tags. It can have its own custom fields. You can see in the aggregate here all the various invoices and subscriptions and an account summary, opportunities linked to it, orders, etc. Okay, so that is it when there is an actual company record created. However, there can also be this sort more informal affiliation here. So if I go to Maureen, we'll see what Maureen looks like here. Okay, so here's Maureen the goat. And you see she has no company, okay? So now here I can do two things, right? One is I can, in the user interface, I can do a search, and it brings up this, come over here, it brings up this search box, and I could say, oh, Maureen works at Gemini Farm, and it's going to find it and it's going to put it up in here, and when I save it, it's going to create that link. And the reason I can search on it is, again, because that company record exists. But what if that company record doesn't exist? And I don't intend for it to exist, right? So what if Maureen just worked for Goat Herders Inc.? Okay, no company record exists there. When I save this record, I just say save. What's going to happen is the company name is going to stay in there, but you'll notice that linked company doesn't appear, okay, because it doesn't exist. Now, why do we care about this? Well, there's a lot of reasons why we might want to properly link someone to their company, not least of which is they work for that company, right? And we do want to be able to report in the aggregate on that. But for example, one of the things that comes up all the time for us is people want some way of linking contacts, which may or may not work for the same company. For example, they work for the same. They're doing a race, one of these charity races, and they are all contacts on the same team for the charity race, and someone wants to link them together somehow so that we can refer to them and send them all emails together about their team, using like Email Anyone, for example. Well, using the company maybe is a really good way to link people together. There are other ways as well, referrals, than just using a custom field or using tags. But company is the kind of a natural way that Infusionsoft gives you to be able to link things together, and so it kind of comes in handy that way. Now, so what we're going to talk about today is, how we can programmatically create these links. Now, I will tell you one other thing about these links, which is interesting too, and I don't believe they have fixed it. I could be wrong, but for the longest time there was a bug here, and that bug was that if I had the company linked and then I changed the link, it was messed up, and it would have like one name up here, but it would have an ID, a different company ID, and you'd have to go. We used to run, in fact we still do, on some of our largest clients, we run scripts that regularly go in and check and make sure that that link is correct and fix it if it's not. And because we just always run that script, I actually don't know if it was ever fixed or not. But so this contacts company would actually be sort of a way to get around that script that we were running for these other clients. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here, and what it does. So if I go to the store, or I'll just go to the store and look at Contacts Company, it says that what Contacts Company does is it adds a new company from the name in the company field. In other words, here, if I put Goat Herders Inc. in this company field somehow, and that company does not already exist when Contacts Company runs, it's going to create that company record called Contacts Company. And so if necessary, and whether it exists or it had to create it, doesn't matter, it's going to then link it, okay, by creating that link. Now, it has another feature in it as well, which is if this runs and there is no name in the company field, for example, it's just blank, you can specify a default parameter, and I'm going to show you that in my demo. So that's an added. So when we did this for a customer, and he wanted, for example, there was no company name, he wanted us to create a company with using their first and last name actually as the company. So he had a company created every single time, whether a company was specified or not. So I'll show you what this looks like, and we'll just use Maureen the goat here as an example. So Maureen, I'm going to copy this. Maureen is maureen@kimsnyder.com, and so if I come over here, let's do this to begin with. So this is a form, which you can see is not attached to Contacts Company right now. And if I run that form for Maureen, I have to find it first. Oops, that's not it. Boy, that's going to create something weird. Hang on. be that one. Nope. That's going to be even weirder. Oh, here we go. Nope. Where's that form? Oh, that's it. Here we go. Get out of there. Okay. This should be the form. Okay, so we have a form. Okay, so if I fill out this form, I'm going to go ahead and fill it out for Maureen, and I'm gonna change her company. Okay, so I'm going to change her company to just Gemini, and I'm going to say and I'm going to say Maureen at KimSnyder.com, and I'm going to submit this. And you're going to see that, okay, that if we go now and we refresh Maureen, so what's going to happen is nothing's linked, but her company should have changed. Which it did. Okay, so again, nothing's linked. Gemini doesn't exist. Even if it did, it was not gonna link that. So now we're going to do something different. We're going to run this same form through Contacts Company. So let's look at how Contacts Company is constructed. It's really, really super simple. Okay, so here's the URL. You would use again, this script sits on your server. I'm using the API guys because I'm running it from mine, but it would, if you purchased it, which you did, it would be on yours. So get rid of that stupid box. So here's the full URL to get to the script. Now, all that's really required is just to run this on Contact ID. So if I run it on just Contact ID like this, and I say back to sequence, and I say back to campaign, and hit publish, and then fill out the same form for Maureen. I did hit publish, right? Yep. Then go fill out that same newsletter. Registration, that's not it. Try that one. Okay, so now we're going to say Maureen, and we're going to create Goat Herders Inc. And we're going to say Maureen at KimSnyder.com, and I'm going to say submit. So what's going to happen this time that is different is now it's going to change her contact. It's going to connect her. And not only that, but it's going to create a company called Goat Herders Inc. Uh-oh. Why didn't it connect her? Hang on, we're not done yet. All right, let me refresh this. Hang on. That, or I didn't publish this right because I yeah, there. I just didn't give it time to finish. Okay, so it has in fact created Goat Herders Inc. Notice now that company field is gone, and when you click through, you can see that here's the company record, and when you go to contacts, that Maureen the goat is one of them. Okay, so that's the connection. Now, I want to show you just one other thing really quickly about this. Let's imagine that, let's disconnect Maureen from Goat Herders. And so she has no company right now. I better save her just to be on the safe side. Okay. So she's saved. And now I'm going to go back to my form. But instead, oh wait, what I want to do is I'm going to make that blank. Here, we got to fix something. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add this default parameter. And so let's imagine that as a default, I want to say if there's nothing in the company field, we're going to put in contact last name and then the word company. Okay, so this should create a company called, for her, DeGoat Company. Right? So we'll say back to campaign. We'll publish that. Publish this. Now, well, I'll talk about how this applies to you guys in your campaign here in a second. Okay, so we have that published. We have a contact with no company, and then we have a newsletter sign up with no company either. And so when we submit, which this time I'll give it a second. Try to refresh again. Okay. I'm going to have to do it again, obviously. Try that one more time, refresh. Why do you guys keep doing this? Hit refresh. That one's still not there. Okay. Let me try something. Let me see if it's not liking my
What? No.
see if it's not liking this.
Coffee shop in Dam Street. So Calvin apparently is moving to manage the coffee shop inside of things. Charlie will be sort of all over, and who knows who's going to be the rest of it.
Well, we're gonna have a different office at Starry Hills.
Oh, we have to make sure it's near where their coffee shop is.
Absolutely.
Ozzy, just so you know, you're not muted. Don't say anything embarrassing.
No. All good.
Don't tell us your salary or anything.
Oh, that wouldn't take much time.
All right. So let's see. Let me try this again and see if it's. So what I did, I thought I have tried this with text in here. Pretty sure it will take text, but maybe not. So I'm just going to try last name for now and just see if it'll make a company with last name. So let's go try this again. Oh, well, it should still. We have our last name, so let's try it. DeGoat Marine. Submit. No company. Submit. All right, and give that a second. And see if it created the company. Ah! Why aren't you creating a company? Okay. For some reason, my default is not working, and I don't know why. I'm gonna have to check on that because that's. I know I did this right. Let me just look at something here. Hang on. Default. Make sure I didn't spell something wrong.
Kim, it's all right. You're amongst family.
Yeah, I know, but still, it bugs me when it doesn't work right. Let's see. So let me go back to.
It's funny. I did a conference call with Perry Marshall earlier this morning, and somehow I ended up as part of their organizer group.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know how that happened, but anyway, I heard all the prep, 5 minutes leading into it, and how they all prepped for the session.
Oh, interesting. That must have been.
It was, Perry Marshall came into the call about 15 minutes late, and his brother took the floor and as if nothing happened,
Huh. Oh, okay. I don't have it in here either. So hang on. One other thing I could look at right here, which would be the notes. Get these Pocket Developer notes. It's weird because I know pretty sure I just use this with that default in there, so I don't know why it wouldn't work. Let's see here. Contacts, company. Make that bigger. Let's see. Nothing in there. Oh, it's not finished yet.
Kim, while you're doing that,
yep.
Chetan asked a question. One of the issues, because we're not using opportunities, one of the issues we had right at the start of this campaign was where, because the same email address was being used many, many, many times, and we didn't have good enough duplicate checking controls on the forms. It was merging how can I say, the transactions across the wrong records. So basically, I think I just said to Chetan in the chat that was a workaround because of just how it was set up. So basically, because we're using opportunities and companies, we're not having to do ridiculous duplicate record checking under the new system.
Right. Well, yeah, that's correct. So let me give you an example. And by the way, I will check on this default because I know I did spell it right, and so I'm not quite sure why that's not going through correctly. But so let me give you an example of how the relationship and how that might work. Kind of different than yours. So I was just talking to someone. Why does it keep doing this? Like, is it going to do this, bug me about this for the next year? I don't get it. So here's an example. So this is kind of similar to a scenario you might encounter, different but similar. So the guy I was just talking to, his company collected leads and kept them in his Infusionsoft application for professional services firms. So lawyers would be an example. And he ran into the same email problem that you did. And because he needed to, at various times, be able to send emails to the legal assistant, to the paralegal, to the attorney, to the office manager, etc. But the person that was going through the campaign was the actual lead, right? And so here's Maureen, the goat, who needs a bankruptcy attorney. And what they were doing is they were coming over here to custom fields, and they were writing 5 email addresses in to custom fields. So, and one might be the paralegal, one the assistant, the attorney might be an email too. And then they were setting, I'm not quite sure how they were setting they were using a custom field also to link all these leads to the professional services firm, right? So, and then they were going to just send it with those email fields. But the problem that they ran into, which was interesting, never thought of this before, was that when the lead, when somebody, let me think, how are they doing this? Oh no, I'm sorry. They weren't putting it in here. They had them all in the in one record for the professional services firm. So they had the lawyer was like email, and then the paralegal was email too, or whatever. Anyway, whatever was happening was when somebody was opting out, it was opting out everybody, and then they could no longer communicate about that lead. And so he was asking about the same, how do I do basically a one-to-many and email all, link all these people together so that when one person opts out, they don't opt out all 8, and I don't have to go search for those every time, and yet I can still pull emails about both the lead and the lawyer's office and put them all in the same emails, basically. And so the solution, one possible solution that I offered was this contacts company, because what you could do is, let's just say that the lawyers had a code of whatever, LLC 5013, whatever, I don't know. It could also be a company name, but let's just imagine it's a code. And then we set this up as a company, and then imagine that this is the lead, but imagine like his paralegal had a job title of paralegal, right? And then so you've got a lead, you've got all the leads associated with this company, and then you've got the attorney and the paralegal and the office manager and so on and so forth. Well, when we get to where we want to send an email to the paralegal for this company, then all we have to do is do a filter by for email, right? If you recall how we did that in Email Anyone, which I'll show you, where we can say filter by the right company, the same company name, and then and paralegal. So, for example, where is Kim Demo? So it's a way of basically tying them together and being able to send these emails out that pulls from multiple records, pulls information from multiple linked records, and pretty much it doesn't really matter at this point now how you link them. You could link them by company, you could link them by referral, you can link them a lot of ways, but you can still get that email to go out. See if it's in here. Hopefully, yeah.
So Kim, in the method that you're
Go ahead.
Kim, in the method that you're describing, do you can bypass having to link the records through the linked contact method?
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Right, that's exactly the point. Yeah, this thing becomes extraneous because the only way to do this, you can't do this by API. The only way you can do this is manually. But now, if you want to link them by company or by referral or what have you, and then I don't have as good of an example built because I didn't know I was going to be talking about this, but let me show you a better example of the email and how you would pull that email. Maybe I could do it this way. So what I would do is, and this is again something we're going to go over I think next week, but I'll just do it here. So what you can do, let's imagine this email is going to be sent from the campaign with the lead, okay? And so what you can do is you do something called prefetch, and you assign it a name, and I'm going to call this prefetch, not company, but lead to, like who's the lead going to, something like that. All right, and let's imagine, oh, that's not what I wanted. Let's imagine that we were storing that company, that was in the, we were storing that in company. So, or we could imagine that we were storing that information in, no, not company, contact. Let's imagine it was in a custom field called, attorney code. How about that? And then, okay, so this is where that code, that says this is who that, the attorney that this lead is going to belong to. Okay, so we're going to get that code out of their record, and then if I want to send, I'm going to mess this up. If I wanted to send an email to that paralegal, then what I can do is I can say, I'm going to have to do one other thing. I have to do, this is like, wow, I probably shouldn't have gone here because this is going to be really complicated and I really should go over this next week. But now I'm halfway there, so I'm just going to go. So so I'm going to say attorney ID is this is ugly. This is contact.id of the, we have a thing called reference notation, so it's going to look like contact ID. No, that's not right. It's going to be contact ID dot filter by, and then it's going to go filter by attorney code, filter by this equals, and then it's going to be like this, prefetch lead to, ugly, but nonetheless. Okay, so what that's going to do, all right, so let me kind of explain what I've got. And then this 2 is going to be, so that's going to get the attorney ID. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, I want to send this to the contact where the contact email dot filter by where the company, no, contact ID is attorney ID and where, so that's a comma, and where job title, contact, I have to go check all this for syntax, but I'll do that in a second, and where job title is paralegal, which is where I was trying to go with this whole thing before I started and went way down this silly rabbit hole, but nonetheless. Okay, so, and get rid of this, and template ID. So this is how, oops, this is not spelled right, but this is how basically he's going to solve that problem. And I should save this and send it to him. So so this lead is going through here, and I'm going to explain all this prefetch stuff next week. But basically what this does is it says go get this, the value of this, and assign it to this label. Assign it and store it to this label called lead2 so I can use it further down here. And then, so it's going to do the same thing. We're going to prefetch something and we're going to assign it to a label we're going to call attorney ID. And that is, so this is what the code that was in the lead, right, that it's going to, and then it's going to say, go get me the ID of the contact where contact custom field attorney code is equal to that lead2. Right, so that's going to pull the ID and assign it to its own label called attorney ID, and then I'm going to in turn merge that in and say find me the contact where that's the ID and where the job title is paralegal, and send it to that email address. So what in effect this does is this basically sends that email to only the paralegal of the firm who's going to be getting this lead, which is really convoluted, but it's also like crazy powerful, because by linking these things together, in this case with a code, now again, this could be company, and that was kind of where I was going. You know, we were in the example I was just talking about, we were talking about, instead of doing link contacts, to just use this code that he's got. But I was telling him that, hey, by the way, you could solve this the exact same way by using company, which is already there and is already automatically, you know, going to be available. The IDs are going to be there and linked, you know. So it's just it's a way to achieve this, but not everyone can, and the reason is because if your leads all have companies, like they actually, you know, you're doing more B2B type work, and these people have companies, you know, then you may not be able to use this record. Like he couldn't use company to do links because they had companies, you know, real companies, so he was having to use just a custom field. Did that make sense, or did I just absolutely, completely, totally lose everybody? I did not mean to go there.
Okay, so Kim, this is, I probably think that this is the way that you're handling automating because in our previous work we were linking the company record manually. So now I would imagine, well, now we don't. And are you still using the company record to record all the executive committee email addresses in the new version?
I need to defer to Monica on that as to which way. What are we using, Monica?
The plan was to go ahead and, I mean, the current plan was to go ahead and use the records that you already have and link them as referrals. But we don't necessarily have to do that.
Right. So this
we could switch to using this. Well, I mean, I guess my question is, do you need the company field for something else?
Well, I suppose the question is which way's tidier, because really at the moment we're using that company record to get around issues that we were having. So if there's look, we're using the company record, I suppose, right now. Well, it's really a contact record, okay, to record due date fields. So due date things against the strata plan, the company, rather than against the contacts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you could. We were initially thinking, that we would use the affiliate and the referral, which is another way, because again, another built-in way that automatically links. I mean, it's built to link contacts together, right? So either one would work. So the company, if I think we'll probably cross that bridge when we get that far, but the company could be, so you could, for example, have a company with the strata plan number, right?
Mhm.
So each plan number has its own company. And then you have contacts. So, well, there's a couple different ways to do it. You could either say, you could either have, and this is what we've talked about, you could either have 10 email addresses at the company level, and then we can, again, this is advanced merge field notation. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go down another rabbit hole. I'll do it, next week or the week after. But we actually can take all 10 of those fields in the company record and make a list out of them, and just and populate the to field or the CC field with that entire list of the 10 email addresses. Or we can make 10 linked contacts, each one of which has a job, just like this, and I'm just making stuff up now, but each one of which has a job title of executive committee. And so then all we have to do is say, okay, email anyone who has this strata plan number and a job title of executive committee, and implode that and create a list, and put that in the in the CC field. So that would be a way to do it. And the benefit I can see of doing it that way is then later, when we talk about your 100 due dates, I'm still not sure whether those need to be, we talked about doing those as an external database, and I still think that's probably right. But some of them could, or information related to them could be stored possibly at the company records level, so that, again, oh, there's a due date here for a, for a strata, and now we have all these contacts that are linked to it that we know we have to email when one of these due dates comes up, or something like that.
Mm. Okay, great.
Does that make
Thanks.
sense?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's really the bigger point. Is number one, everybody complains that there's no way to in a campaign link a contact, and the answer is, well, with Pocket Developer there is. There's many ways now. You can automatically in a campaign link them by company, link them by custom field, link them by tag, link them by tags on the fly, which is the other thing I was going to show you. Link them by affiliate ID or referrer ID. And you can do that on the fly, and therefore linked contacts is basically, number one, irrelevant. So that limitation goes away. And then number two, then the next piece is, how do I communicate with those links, with those linked people? And the answer there is, you'd use email anyone for that. But just basically that, the limitation of creating a company and actually linking it without having to do it manually, which is what you had to do previously, is what this specific plugin solves. Make sense?
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Okay. Tan has a question that way we can use for EC. Yeah, so is that, I think that's what we were just talking about, is that right?
That's right. Correct. That's
Okay.
Yeah, we can use it for the executive committee. Correct.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so that's what that is what that one does. Let's talk about tags on the fly also really quickly, because tags on the fly, again, has lots of applications. The most obvious one being that when you do something that's really tag intensive, like events, you don't have to, in order to make the event dynamic and so that you don't have to touch it so many times, you can just create the tags as part of the campaign, like on our webinars. But it also, and I'll show it to you again, but it also came up again today as one possible way of linking contacts. So here is an example of tags on the fly right here. So here's a webinar. We're going to ask GoToWebinar to set attended, did not attend, generic attended, did not attend tags or canceled tags, if they will, which we'll do if they cancel. And then just as an example, we'll use canceled, because imagine that of the 10 people that are signed up for your webinar, nobody cancels. Well, you don't want to have created a canceled tag when nobody in that webinar ever actually canceled, right? And so this is just one example. So this is how it works. This is the notation. The notation is, and by the way, just for you guys so you know, we are changing our newer plugins are all coming out with this index.php rather than a specific file name, and eventually we will go back and change our old plugins as well. Whenever you have index.php like that, you don't need it, because it's index, right? So it doesn't need any, you don't need to specify that in the URL. You can, if you want, just do it like that, which is a little cleaner, but it doesn't matter either way. And then it only has two possible parameters, both of which or three, contact ID, category, and name, all of which rather are required. And so what it's saying is, if this tag category does not exist currently, create it. And then if this tag does not exist within that tag category, create it. And whether it exists or not, apply it. It's always going to apply it. It may have already existed. It may have had to just create it, but it's always going to apply it. So without having to make them in advance, that's why we call it tags on the fly, right? Now, the reason, so this is great because, number one, you don't have to, if you've got an event that has like 6 tags associated with it, you don't have to go make them in advance. You can just make them dynamically. As part of your campaign. If they don't get used, they don't get made, so it keeps your tag list a little cleaner and more organized. But the other thing that came up today with this linking of contacts, which is kind of interesting, was, well, you could use some dynamic tag naming to link them together now, because that same code, for example, and there, I don't know which way is best, but I came up with all kinds of possible, combinations of codes on the tags on the fly, like, that use company name and job title, and or lead or what have you, and then almost like a campaign. Now you could, because you can create them on the fly, you could just say, give me the person who has tag, because remember we talked about that before, who has this tag with this description, which might be paralegal for this company or what have you. So so back to your stratas, for example. Let's just imagine that I don't think this is part of your process, but I'm just making stuff up. Imagine that part of your process was a new executive committee member got added, and they had a strata plan number under company, and it ran contacts company and made a strata plan for the new plan, right? And then it turned around and said, we're going to also run it through tags on the fly, and the category we know is something, but we're going to merge in the strata plan number, and and that's how we know which contacts are associated with that plan, for example. Again, I don't think that's really actually a good use case for you, but that's the idea. And then, oh, now we're going to send emails to anybody who has that tag or whatever. So that's another possibility, and the reason I was thinking of tags on the fly and contacts company together, because both could, in theory, have to do with linking contacts together. Does that make
Now,
sense?
Kim, yes. Is there another benefit that because the tags are not there in the tag list, especially when you're using other applications where you trigger campaigns through tags, by it not appearing in the tag list, you can't accidentally trigger a campaign that's triggered by a tag? Is that also a benefit?
No, because once you do create it with tags on the fly, it will be in the tags list.
Unless you remove it.
Unless you remove it. Yes, you could. Yep.
Mm.
You could, although we don't have well, no, you can't remove it at the end unless we created a different plugin, because you can't, in the remove a tag part of a campaign, you have to tell it which tag to remove, and if it doesn't exist, it's not going to show up there. You know what I mean? So if I pull this out and I say remove a tag, I can't tell it to remove a tag that doesn't exist yet because it's asking me for that tag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So once I create it here, it'll be there. It is a tag like any other tag. It's just not getting created until I need it, and its name this is the other thing that is unique about it, is its name can include a merge field or merge fields, and therefore it can be very dynamic. It can be, different depending on what's running through the campaign. So this tag can be made up of dates and or, company names or whatever kind of merge fields you want to put in here for the name of the tag. All right. Any other questions about that, or how thoughts about how you guys might use that? Uh-oh, did I lose you guys? Because it suddenly got really silent.
Okay, I've got a question, Kim, just to get it bit more clear in my mind. Okay, you're putting, where you get the name in that screen that you're showing?
Mm-hmm.
Are you passing the tag value that you're creating to a field rather than it be created in the tag area itself?
Nope, it's actually being created in the tag area itself. So right here, let me just show you an example. So we put, let me give you context for this. Further back here, it's sort of weird because I use middle name, but I only do that because I never have middle names, so I can just stash stuff there, right? So one of the things we stash way back at the beginning of this webinar campaign is this. We take the webinar date and we put it in this format, which is, for example, today would be 2014 1014, right? Year, all 4 digits of the year, the 10 for the month, and 14 for the day. And where we put that is in the middle name. Okay, so I've got this format for the webinar date stuck right now in middle name. Okay, so now when I come along later on down here, and let me just show you this because this will probably help. If you look at my tags, right, and you'll notice that's what they all look like. 2000, these are my event tags. These are event event email, 2014-0904 PD demo, 2014-0911 PD demo, right? Here's all the, it did not attend, 2014-0820 PD demo. So that 2014-0820 is what's stuck in the middle name. And then the word PD demo is, in this example here, if I go all the way down here, here's attended, tags on the fly, category, event attended, middle name, which is 2014-1014 PD launch demo, right? So it's actually creating those tags, those real tags for me. It's just not creating them until I need them. And it's doing it. I don't have to set this campaign up every time I create a new webinar. I don't have to touch it because that campaign, that webinar date is being pulled from GoToWebinar at the very beginning, and then based on the idea, and then as it or the ID, and then as it runs through this entire campaign, those dates are being used in all kinds of ways and places to send emails and to trigger timers, and in this case to create tags on the fly to say whether somebody registered, did they attend, did I email them, and had they canceled, called me to cancel, it would have done that too. But there is no category called event canceled because so far nobody's run through that tags on the fly yet, so I haven't had to create event canceled. But when I do, it would be here and it would have a tag there that had been applied to that contact. Does that make more sense now, hopefully? Anyone else have any other questions on any of this or anything else, by the way? This is a good time if you have questions about how to get something done. If I can help you with that, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, Kim, just in terms of the question last week, you know how we wanted to find out where records were in sequences?
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going into that blue bubble within a campaign and was able to then do a safe search on all the records that had either whether it was active, whether it was done, or whether it was queued. Output them to a spreadsheet because that's you can export it to a CSV file, and then we sorted it so that by contact, so that we could see where they were, what sequence. Because one of the columns, so that was the way we ended up doing it. I think I was trying to search for a way to list things through your plugins, like reporting wise. So in terms of doing levels of reporting, so for example, if you got a whole bunch of standard reports and you can do safe searches, do you use your plugins for generating other type of reports that you can't do the standard way?
Well, you could. You definitely could, but so so first of all, you can, because remember these plugins are very new, right? And so we haven't had reporting is just not something that we've gotten into that much yet. But there's a couple things. So the one thing is, obviously you can create fields that report on things that don't exist in your saved searches currently. So just the very most basic examples would be things like, let me try to find one. Not that. Here. The how many videos have they watched? What's the dollar amount of purchases? And by putting them in fields, that now they are somewhere that I can get to them. So I might use counters or field math or anything to create these, and then be able to use a saved search to either display them on the dashboard or even report them out, because the saved searches are also available via the API. So I could. The other thing that I, am more likely to do, I think, besides, because these just tear up a ton of custom fields, is to take that information and instead write it out to a MySQL database, which we don't currently have the plugin done for, but it's like second on the list right now to do. That's like, we want to get the universal listener done, and then the MySQL plugin is next. And what the MySQL plugin would do, of course, is both write to query and update a MySQL database with the same using the same advanced notation that we have available to us for all these other plugins, right? So I can say, pull this and then write that to a MySQL database, and then once I have a MySQL database, now I can do anything with that. So, for example, let's just take an example. Your example, okay? Let's just say that it was really important to you, critically mission important to you, to always know what, programmatically, to always know what stage in a campaign a contact was, okay? And so with the idea that we had the other day, you could, in theory, assign some sort of stage ID system to each one of your campaign stages, sequences rather. Keep saying stages, but I mean sequences. And then as a contact hits that sequence, it automatically writes out that, a date and time stamp and the sequence number to the MySQL database, let's just say. And then we want to do some sort of, really super cool, beautiful, dashboardy type reporting on that information. Let's just imagine, although I don't know why you necessarily would, but not unlike, what the campaign builder itself looks like, so, oh heck. So, now that it's in a MySQL database, it's available to anything, including, things like Clipfolio or Excel spreadsheets, or, and we could in fact do the same. We could write them to Google Docs or anything else, but right now we're choosing to, because we use SQL the most. But so yeah, and then now you can do all kinds of crazy reporting things, right? Once you get it out of Infusionsoft in some sort of easily digestible format, you can then recreate almost anything that you want. So those are a couple of possibilities. One is to create new data fields for saved reports that could then be displayed on the dashboard, and then another would be so that you could export them, and the third would be so that you could export them and then use them for some other third-party app that you keep track of.
Right, thanks, Kim.
Yeah. Now, with that said, Ozzy, I'm curious why you ended up doing that instead of just using this kill tag.
It's called learning. Sorry, did what? Sorry, say that again.
So what I guess what I understood, you said is that you had all of these kind of duplicate
Now,
people.
because I couldn't use a kill tag, because the problem is that there's the same record in the campaign in two different sequences.
Right.
And if we killed it, it would have killed both.
Oh, so it's not the same record. It's actually two different records with the same email address.
No, it's the same record.
Okay. So you're saying like ID 1234, it was both here and here?
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah, correct. So if I use a kill tag, it would have killed both of them.
I didn't think that's humanly possible.
Yeah, we figure that one out, how it's humanly possible. It's because we can't, in terms of the action set, we cleared out all the sequences by not putting, no, sorry, come again. Okay, what happened was that there was an action set at the end of the campaign that cleared out fields but didn't essentially clear out the sequence. So it was still in there. Then we triggered a new process against the same record, which started a new process, new sequence in that same record. So the problem, how it was created, was that the kill tag wasn't there in the first place to clear out that first record properly. Yeah.
So you must have breaks in the campaign somewhere, otherwise, where the arrows don't go from beginning to end.
Yeah, look, there is a,
because otherwise it could,
you're right. There is a couple of logical flaws. Yeah, and in the current campaign, correct? Yeah.
Got it. Okay, got it. Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm just living with them, and we're fixing them the way we are, because I don't want to break what's already sort of on tenterhooks.
Sure.
Yeah. We'll just make it all okay in the new version, because if I start mucking around with this one with lines going everywhere, I'm just worried that I'm going to make it worse.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I was just curious what why you went that route, but now I understand. Okay. Okay. What else? Cool cutting edge stuff that your company is doing. Can we talk about?
Yeah, like in terms of what we're trying to achieve, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got a question. Yeah. I spent. I'm implementing Zendesk. And one of the questions I asked this morning, I love it, by the way. Jesus, bloody good system. Jeez, I'm just going through the throes of configuring it, but so far it looks really good. Okay, so basically, there's tags against records, so contact records, you can assign tags. My concern right now is I want to keep the contact records and the tags in sync across Zendesk and Infusionsoft. There is a plugin for Infusionsoft within Zendesk. So the thing that's in my mind as of last night is that, and that's one of the questions I asked, obviously the lady was a trainer and didn't understand the whole, synchronization with a third-party application. She didn't, so how would I go about sort of, keeping the two in sync? Now, I know that you might not have experience with Zendesk, what information would I need to give you to look at the possibility of how we can keep those in sync?
Well, my understanding is that Zendesk integration does keep it in sync.
Including the tags?
That part I don't know.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you just have to ask the developer if it, does it. And if it didn't, we just have to, I've looked at the Zendesk API before, and I'm pretty sure that, and in fact we could even look at Zapier and see what they've got, but core API for Zendesk. Yeah, we just have to go in here and figure out like what, are those tags accessible from the API? If they are, then I am going to assume that integration already keeps them synced up. If they're not, then that, there's not a lot we could do about that. But tickets, are they called tags?
And yeah, they are.
Groups, right?
Yeah, they're called tags. Yeah.
There they are, tags right there. So get tags, show tags, set tags, add tags, remove tags. Yeah, so I'm sure they're in there, and we could probably pull them. It would be, super cool if they had such a thing as webhooks, which I don't know if they do or don't. We'd have to look it up. But yeah, so a webhook is like a goal in a way. So a webhook says when a new tag is applied, let us know, fire a post. Some APIs have them, some don't. And when they don't, then you just have to go look. You have to run something that goes every 5 minutes or so and says, hey, is there any new tags here since the last time we looked? But again, I would check first to see and just confirm that it doesn't do that already, because I really sort of feel like it does. And if it doesn't, let me just look at this other thing. Hang on. Alphabetical. Do you use Zapier?
Yeah, we do for our client survey. So if they give us a satisfaction level of less than what we desire, it triggers an email to our client services manager who deals with so it basically escalates the issue, saying, hey, we've got somebody that's not quite in love with us. Surprise, surprise. Does happen.
So, yeah. Hopefully not often. Yeah, so here are the triggers in Zendesk. Recent ticket, new organization, new user, new group, new forum, new action on a ticket, and new view. Not tag is applied, apparently. And then there are their actions. So, yeah. So, I mean, that doesn't look like that's necessarily a possibility, but I always check Zapier first, because sometimes, that's the easiest, fastest way to get it done.
So the main area is that the outside of the work order and quote program is other thing. Okay, so that's that. So what I'll do is, if after investigating, if I think it could be done, just and I'm getting roadblocks, I'll just say, look, this is what I'm trying to achieve, and I'll run it past you.
Yep.
The area that I'm focusing on outside is this whole recruitment / induction of staff. So for example, with intern, we have in Australia we get a lot of immigrants that want to get permanent residence, and they have to accumulate points, and we get essentially free resources for 3 months to do an internship with us.
Huh?
Having said that they're free resources, you know, we manage them as if they're employees, and we want to keep them on their toes, and we want them to learn and all that sort of thing. So what I want to do by keeping them on their toes is basically actually we interview them just like anybody else. They make an appointment. So basically the stages, if you like, is we want them to fill out some interview questions to disqualify the ones that don't have the right mindset just through the questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
If they pass the interview questions, they can then make an appointment using Appointment Call. We know how to do that. They then have to do half-day induction because we're quality certified, so they've got to do induction, you know, read various procedures, etc. And then for the 13 weeks that they're with us, we want to give them a quiz at the end of each week. So if we wanted to set that up, would we use opportunity stages, is the question. Is there a way to do that, or is there a better way?
Yeah, I would say there are 2 ways. I actually have mine. I don't have mine built out, but I think I started down this road. So if we look at, hang on just one second. Let me just well, I don't think I want to go there. Let me go back here. If I go to, hang on one second. There we go. My links, opportunity stages. Let me see if I built this out or not. No, I didn't. So I think I must have done this I think I did mine as tags, which was the other possibility. So I think it really depends on whether you're hiring, whether you are using opportunities or not. You certainly could, you know, easy enough. Just, why didn't that work? Show, there we go. So see how I have like, well, some of these got goobered up. Stage 1, contact for interview. Stage 2, interview scheduled. Send test and logins. Test completed. Bring in for trial, hired. Decided against. Went dark. And then we have a campaign, I believe, that I started and didn't finish, that moves them. It's actually in our Automatus campaign, I think, that moves them through that, you know, and takes the tags off as each step is completed. So my idea was, you know, again, like same thing. I didn't want to have to really touch them until they had basically like gotten over a bunch of hurdles, and then I would talk to them. And so I wanted that automated, and you know, the stage moves would just take themselves on and off as they move through that process until eventually, you know, there was a task or a something for someone to say, hey, you know, interview this person. So to your point, you know, well, you've got all the front end done, and now you want to do the back end quizzes and so forth. So to me, that would not be unlike what I've got on the front end, you know, where we're hiring here, current job listings. And so if you say, I mean, these are job, you know, this is saying, hey, yeah, I'm interested in your job, but this could also just as easily be a Gravity Forms quiz here, you know, and this quiz, or if you know, if it was simple enough, it could be an Infusionsoft form as well, right? But if this was you know, if this was a Gravity Forms quiz, then when it was, because this is actually Contact 7 form, you know, that when it's applied, it, you know, it sends notifications and it writes stuff to their Infusionsoft record and so on and so forth, and moves the tags and does all that stuff. So this could be also be a quiz. That's what I would, if it's me. You can see I was already going that way. I just didn't didn't quite get it finished. So that's how I would do it.
So a combination of gravity forms and text. Is that right?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be gravity form. Yeah, and the only reason I say tags, Ozzy, is, well, number one, we're already using your opportunities pretty heavily, so, you know, to add those extra hiring stages is just, to me, is kind of not clean. If you weren't using opportunities, then who cares? Then you might as well use that. It's a great way to use it, you know. But since you are, I would probably say, nah, these are simple stages. Why not just use the tags? And since you can create the tags on the fly and remove them, and you know, you could, you know, a tag is as good as a stage move to me. And then the other thing I would say is it doesn't have to, of course, be gravity forms, because there's there's all kinds of stuff even in Zapier that you could use to automate a lot of this. You know, Gravity Forms has Gravity Forms quizzes, which I quite like, but of course SurveyMonkey does, and so does Wufoo Forms and a bunch of Formidable, and so, well, yeah. So, you know, between Zapier and some of those plugins, you could probably, on your WordPress site, you could probably get it most of the way there without ever having to write any custom code.
Cool. All right. We already use SurveyMonkey for our client satisfaction. And we've done a Zap with Zapier. So I'll probably end up doing based on what you've said, because I'll use SurveyMonkey, Zapier, and tags. I'll give that a go and see how we go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that will. Now, do you have to report this to the government or anything, or is it really just for
internal purposes? Yeah. Keep them
okay.
on there.
Yeah.
That was in my mind is we've got things that are like checklist oriented. So, for example, when we bring on a new client, at the moment we've got a Word document within our procedures that says, hey, this is what we need to do to bring on a new client. Now, you know, there might be, let's say, 15 or, between 15 or 20 things that need to be done, and they happen progressively, and I want to know firstly, I want the person that's doing it to know what they need to do, and then progressively I want to know what hasn't been done, so as they go they tick things off. So I suppose the thing that's in my mind is, what's the best method to deal with things that are checklist oriented, in terms of this is what needs to be done, we tick it off as we go, and I didn't want to necessarily create tasks. I mean, you can. That's one way, just create tasks for the whole. Or I noticed that within opportunities there's checklist.
Exactly.
Approach. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about the checklists is, so those can't be done, so a human has to check those off. And so what you do is you make it so that, the automation stage can't move unless they've checked off the checklist. But, so, I mean, that would be one way. The other way is if it's bringing on a new client, and so this is sort of another sort of philosophical thing. You know, in my experience, a lot of people think of opportunities as, okay, these stages go all the way up to the point where we win the opportunity and then they stop. But there's no reason that that should be the case. They actually, you know, they can keep going all the way through, you know, to the, you know, to the end if you want. I mean, like, for example, see how we have, like, okay, well, here's where you know, you accepted the proposal, and here's where you paid us, and here's where we figured out what we were doing, and you gave us the credentials, and then we assigned it, and then it was in development, and then we tested it, and you tested it, and, you know, and then you approved it, and then, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then here we said, could we have a referral? And closed and lost and do nothing. So in the same way that, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of stages, but maybe you actually want these to be your checklist. I don't know. Might be too many.
Mm.
I don't know. The other thing you could do is you could just do it with emails, which is another approach that I actually really quite like. So you send them, you know, links to, just to say, now this probably, you know, would make more sense if you did it as tasks, I guess. But if you, for us, these are stage moves where you say, and I'll show you an example here.
Actually, just a whole bit about tasks, Kim, because our views changed somewhat since this, since like in the last week or so. Because if it was just going in and creating Infusionsoft tasks, Infusionsoft tasks are a bit, you know, how do you do? It's too the reporting within Zendesk. If I send an email, you know, to Zendesk, it's a ticket. It is, you know, it assigns it to the right person because we can do auto assigns of tickets. And then if I have one email for each activity, then I've got total visibility as what hasn't been done.
There you go.
Yeah, that's clean. Because then it's all the report. It's what's overdue. I can assign due dates and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's really, yeah, that's perfect right there. That's exactly what you would do.
Yeah. Okay.
And then,
right.
if you, when you were done, if you wanted to create like an automation that said, "Oh, look, this entire checklist is done. When the last one is done, then automatically move them to a stage," or, you know, or write something to their record or something. You could, but you might not even need that. You might just be able to do it all in Zendesk.
Yeah. All right, and the last thing in terms of when you're talking about, you know, leading edge, one of my staff actually handles, let's call it so with buildings that we manage, she's a specialist in resolving defects. Now, defects management involves predictable sort of process. What she wants me to help her with is to develop a look like a project plan approach to managing her projects, where notifications go out, people get reminded that, hey, this engineering report's due on this date, you know, have you done it? Why haven't you done it? A bit like the work order program. So it's got discrete stages and certain activities that need to be done, you know, as part of each stage, with notifications about have you done it, and if not, let us know that you've done it. Think of it like a IT project. You know, you generate a project plan. You know, what's it called, Microsoft Project. Oh, well, that was the theory as to when that was all going to happen, but you know, from day one, it's starting to fall behind. And what we want to do is basically give the people who are doing the job the mechanism to update the time frame so that we've still got a method of following them up, but we've still got a method of allowing them the ability to change things, because that's just actually what happens. In that respect, do you use opportunities in terms of the stages of defects, of the defect project? Do you think?
Wow. I don't know. It would I don't know enough about it to say whether that makes sense or not.
Think of it as an IT project then.
Yeah, I mean, as an IT project, I definitely use stages.
Okay.
Yeah, just like I just showed you. And you can, you can in fact give them the ability through whatever, custom through if even a Gravity form or something, or an email to email back. I mean, one of the things I love about Zapier is their mail parser, for example. So, if all they did was send back a date, or something, you could parse it and put it in in the opportunity. I mean, there are tons of things that you can do if that's but anytime there's something that goes in sequential order, my brain automatically goes to opportunity if it makes sense to track in Infusionsoft. Doesn't always, right? Just like you just said, oh, Zendesk, right? Yeah, that's way better than Zendesk. So I mean, but for us, if we've already got a customer or we've already got the data in there, then why wouldn't you automate it there? Yep. Yeah,
because in my head it's very similar to how we're managing the work order program. We're given the opportunity to change the date. So it's very similar, but to do with a specific project.
Right. Yeah, and maybe you could even just make a copy of the work order campaign and then kind of simplify it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Wait for version 2 on that one.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Jesus.
There's lots to do, huh?
Oh, yeah. We're using Trello for that.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. Boy, lots to do. All right. All right. So Ozzy and I have been like brainstorming. You guys, just before we close up, any of you all have any other thoughts or suggestions or questions? So what do you think about going next into starting to really spend a couple weeks maybe on the advanced merge field notation? Think we're ready to go there?
Yeah, yep. And what I've got to get my guys to do, what we've already learned, what I've already started doing, Kim, is that I grabbed your documentation from the website. You know how you got examples. So I started creating for each plugin. You've already sort of got the words about how to use them. So I've created a campaign called Pocket Developer Examples, which is just there for documentation. Let's create a HTTP post. Put in the notes. Put all the documentation that you've got on your website anyway for the plugins. And give it a go. Make it work. Exactly. Right, because if you don't do that now, for the next session, it'll be just completely over their heads. Well, yeah. Team anyway. So I need to have a chat to them and say, well, let's. I'll give them each a plug-in where they've got to actually, at least make it work. Like Mo's been working on that email anyone, which. Is Carlos going to have all that in the right environment by the end of the week, Kim, on that one?
I believe he did that today.
Okay.
I saw it go to done in the Trello board. So
Great. All right, well, we can get onto that. So that's one for Mo. What I'll do is I'll get each of them to start focusing on getting them to work. So, yeah, let's go to the next step, but in going there, I don't want it to be over their heads, and that's why we've got to force the issue of them getting their hands dirty.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and maybe we can, just break it down. And I mean, there are, filter by is huge. Like, filter by, we could probably spend a lot of time on. But there's all these other little things like, min and max and count and sum and stuff that, would take probably a couple minutes each, if we just talked about, well, where might you use these? So, I think if they each had a plugin that they were making, working with, then maybe they could then take the advanced notation and you could say, okay, now go apply this, because the advanced notation applies to all of them, all the core ones that we're talking about. So then you could say, all right, now I'm going to go take some of these examples and make them work in the plugin that I've been working with most and see where you get. Ozzy, I think you are muted.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was just saying that in terms of the variables, like the min, the max, the counts, because we don't know PHP code, these things for someone that does would just be that you would already know that. Like we know those words only because we use Excel, and those things come. We don't know all the things that we can do. Is there like a document or somewhere where we can get the documentation in what the variable names are that we can use when we do HTTP posts?
Yeah. So everything that the reason I'm hesitating is I'm not positive I'm understanding your question, but what I'm planning to go through with you all is this. In the quick start guide, there's this advanced. We've broken it up. There's advanced merge field notation, and so, I've been working on this very hard. Let's see if it's coming up. And then here's prefetch, and I'll also add one more, but there it goes. So if you look at this, so advanced merge field, this is really long. So it's, here's how you do, here's query, here's reference, but then it takes it and it's here. So here's your list, like filter by, newest, oldest, unpaid, is empty, is not empty, greater than or equal to. And so if we go to like dot unpaid, it'll say, only supported on the invoice table, and it, should give you like some examples of that. And I think if we go through it and actually use them in the, in the webinar and show those to you guys, and then you can go play with them all. But they're definitely all here.
Okay, great, good stuff. That's brilliant. And I've started doing that with some of the more simpler ones. Yeah. Okay. Sounds great.
All right. Well, then that'll be our plan for next week then.
Okay. Sounds great. Thanks. This is awesome.
Good. All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye-bye.